Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PTG Live. My name is Majid Waris, and I'm the host for PTG Live. This is a brand new platform. Some of you may have seen some of the digital content that we've been putting out on social media, and some of you may not have. But we're gonna go a little bit more deep into that and explain to you exactly what Pathway2Grow is and exactly how all this works. But here we go. This is the inaugural event, and we can expect any glitches, we can expect bloopers, and we can, because it's live, it's raw, it's out there now. So there's no second takes, there are no retakes, there are no cutting and pasting or whatever else that we have. And so we thought we'd have this live session in a free-flow conversation with the guests in the studio.
I'm doing a runner.
You're doing a
You've scared me off completely.
Well, I did have some pre-planned questions which I thought I was going to ask, but I'm not going to go down that route now. But I think we should have a real conversation, because that's what it is. I think we'll get more value out of that. So first of all, I would like to. I'm sorry. See, it was already. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody here at Pathway2Grow, especially Safaraz Ali, who we all know as Saf, for inviting me here to be the host for PTG Live. It is a risk. I mean, I'm a risk management consultant, but this is a risk, right? Because I don't even do lives on my own Facebook page. So to be here hosting a show, so to speak, I can't believe I just did that, but yeah. There we go. it's a bit of a risk. But thank you very much, Sarfaz, for joining us.
Magic, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. I know you're a busy man.
No.
And I don't know whether we invited you, or I invited you, or actually coerced you into doing this with me.
No, you were fantastic. You were fantastic. I think I was in Malaysia. You sent me a couple of text messages. Oh, well, I actually thanked you firstly for accepting the position of PTG Live, and you managed to use your salesman techniques and closed me, and here we are. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, because you see, when we launched this and we announced that this was going to take place, we had a few candidates.
Well, a long list, really.
Yeah, quite a long list.
More than 10, I think.
Yes, and for me personally, I thought, I wouldn't want to start other than with you first, because you are the founder of Pathway2Grow. You are the founder and CEO of the Pathway Group. Some people obviously get confused with the term, so we can go into a little bit about that. But these are changes we're embracing. These are things that are going on in our business lives, in our personal lives, and it's quite a fascinating story that you have and everybody else has. But what we want to do is we want to try and derive some value and meaningful lessons from the conversation. And no pressure, but this is just going to come through free flow conversation, because I know from the conversations that I've had with you, and believe it or not, this is only the 4th time that I'm meeting you, isn't it? I think this is the 4th time I'm actually just meeting you. And here I am doing. But
it's like we're long sort of friends.
Yeah. And as far as
rapport, we've got
and the fascinating thing is that I feel that we understand one another, which is great. But I think it'd be difficult for anybody not to say that about you, because you have quite a broad level of skills when understanding people and people's skills in general. So
thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
You're most welcome. But thank you as well. So we were talking about just a minute ago embracing change, and I noticed that in your material that you post on social media, you always talk about, well, you not always, but you do talk a fair amount about change.
It is one of the things I do sort of talk about quite a bit.
Yeah.
My day job is running a training business, and we're recruitment, we're training. It's all about people, and one of the things that I would say is that the only thing that is certain is change, and that's the only thing that is certain.
Yeah.
And uncertainty, to a certain extent, is the environment that we live in. You can't predict to a certain level 5-10 years. Yes, fine. To a certain level, we all have. We all have views. We also read in terms of our papers, and we get our information. But it's amongst us. This is where we are, and we've adapted as a business, and we've embraced Facebook Live, and we've embraced the whole aspect of it. Year ago, we didn't even think about this as a platform.
Yeah.
But we've taken that on board, and that's where it is in terms of the world, they say. From a personal perspective, from a business perspective, I mean, this is something that I've been sort of looking at and sort of studied as well. And
how do you study from change?
Yeah, it's starting from a position of learning styles, how we get information.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's when I was at university, I did a sort of a banking degree.
Banking, okay, interesting.
And at the time, banking was a reputable profession. They were talking about change and the fact that CEOs and leaders of an organization need to plan 5-10 years in advance. And that timescale has actually narrowed considerably. If I'm sitting here now thinking 10 years from now, it's a little bit pie in the sky. It's wishful thinking. It's sort of, with what certainty, how could I plan, 10 years from now? So in terms of our ability, it's no longer about where, yes, we need to have a purpose and a mission and a sort of a vision. But in terms of actually planning for that, it's more about our ability to react and adapt, which is the key here.
Being interactive, and some people talk about being proactive, and some people in certain industries talk about reactive implementation of interventions.
Yeah.
But rarely do we get people talking about interactive interventions. So you can be proactive in thinking about what you're going to do before something happens. And you can think about how to implement something after you've seen something happen, which you didn't consider in the first place. But what about the interactive, the smaller things in between that we can continually improve on? I think this is what you're referring to, yeah?
It's yes, definitely it's part of it, because it's all about it's about innovating, but it's not about necessarily innovating in a big bang way. It's about these small improvements, and if you make those small improvements regularly, that's the way forward. Because if you're obviously static, if you're where we are, you're going backwards. I think that's accepted by all of us. But going back in terms of the change aspect of it, and really in terms of looking at where we are as individuals, the difference between you and I is about how we react to situations, how we adapt to situations. Is this adaptability which is the key, and I think that's where you could talk about obviously business successes, and how sometimes they talk about how somebody's won the lottery and how they've changed as a person, and that level of adaptability and how they adapt to situations, I think, is the key in terms of in terms of moving forward and being able to understand.
Is it something you think you can be trained to do, to be adaptable?
I mean, a lot of it, I think it depends on the individual's emotional intelligence. And, they talk about, IQ, but it's all about EQ and understanding yourself. And you start from a position of really understanding yourself. And what I believe is, not necessarily the fact that, you look at your weaknesses and you're trying to overcome every single weakness you have, but understanding what your strengths are, understanding what your sort of preferences are, what your likes are, where you see yourself and you position yourself. I think that's a starting point. Understanding other people, and it's that body language, it's the unspoken word, it's understanding that person's feeling without actually, necessarily that person saying. I think that's a key driver in terms of relationships, and a key driver in terms of, us as individuals in terms of moving forward. That's the personal belief. That's actually you can learn this, you can study this, but you've got to be a bit more aware of it. And you've got to have that element of awareness of the language we're using, how we're discussing things, how we come across. We're not using, and how we come across as individuals. From a perspective of respect as well. So you start with respect. And we say each person's respect is in their own hands, and if you do something which is
not seen as a good thing, it affects your reputation. And some people in the from the viewers who know me will tell you about how I'm always talking about reputational risk management, is quite close to what I do. And I agree with the words that you speak, and sometimes the words you don't speak. Well, sometimes it could be about not just what we say, but how we say it.
It's all about the language, to a certain extent, body language or verbal language, communication to a certain extent, and it's the language of, sometimes people use a one-upmanship type language where even though they're being helpful, it's the way, it's the tone, it's the tone, and I think whether that person is a member of your team or whether it's a colleague or a customer, I think that relationship and being able to converse with them on on a language of equals, I think is absolutely key.
Talking of tone, pardon the pun on that note. I was talking to one of the guys who works here, and they were talking about the culture and how the culture here at that Pathway offices is very different to what he had ever known anywhere else. How did you create that? What kind of culture is he, do you think, referring to, first of all, and how is that created, and what benefits do you think that has?
Look, from a personal perspective, that's been slightly deliberate. I mean, in terms of what as an organisation do we want to be known as, and that's about yourself as well. What do you want to be known as? That's your reputation to a certain extent. What people think about you, say about you, what your values are, what your beliefs are, and so forth. And as an organisation, we start with respect, and that's the key for us. And it's how we deal with individuals. And the fact that we want to be embracing, want to be open. Openness is absolutely key. People talk about trust, but it takes a while to get to that position. So you start with respect, you start with openness, you start with trusting people in certain aspects of it. I'll give you an example. Us as an organisation, we're learning from organisations that are not even in our sector. So Netflix, we all know Netflix. They have a culture. 5-6 years ago that I've studied and looked at and so forth, and said, well, what can I learn from them? Even though there's nothing to do with us in terms of us training, but what can I benchmark? We can all learn from different people. And they've got. I'll give you an example. They've got this policy on expenses.
Okay.
And I looked at our policy, a few years back, and it was all about, you can claim this, you can't do this, and we expect you to do this, and so forth, and whatever. I looked at us as an organisation, what we do, and we had rules. And this is probably, you might come back in terms of rules and regulation, but we had a lot of rules. You can do this and so forth. And Netflix have got, act in the best interest of Netflix. That's their culture. So their expense policy is act in the best interest of Netflix.
Wow.
That's it.
Okay.
5 words. And if you're doing that, fine.
And there's a lot of trust involved.
It's all about trust. So then if you're not acting in the best interest of Netflix, and these are not I'm promoting Netflix, so I'm just talking about the culture. That's the culture they've created, but it's come from leadership. It's come from the top. It's not a culture of control. And this is the whole thing. It's not a culture of trying to control everything in terms of as an organisation. I think that's it's more about, okay, if this is where we are, this is our rules, and then it's up to you whether you can be trusted or you can't be trusted. And if you can't be trusted, then there's an element of you breaking that trust, then there's going to be consequences.
It's amazing because I'm seeing more and more businesses adopting that kind of a culture of giving trust from the get-go, because like you say, sometimes we feel that trust has to be earned, which is true to an extent, but a certain level of trust has to be given.
We start from trust. We start from trust, and then it's a matter of giving people allowing people to do their thing,
autonomy, and let them embrace the culture so that they feel that they're truly a part of the organisation. Right?
We talk about, are you above the line or below the line? Above the line is about ownership, accountability, responsibility. Below the line for us is all about somebody that's all about excuses, blaming others, in denial mode. There's a lot of people that they have a conversation with them about maybe a project or whatever, and they'll name drop 3 other people. I've not done this because of this person or that person or this thing or that thing, and this has happened, and the whole world is falling apart.
There's a social media company, I think based here in Birmingham, Bootcamp, I think it's called Bootcamp Media, and they've just recently adopted a policy of having as many holidays as you want in the business. They've got a way of doing that, of unpaid or paid or however they work it out. But again, going back to the culture that you were talking about.
Right. That's also Netflix. That's their policy as well. And what I've seen is, I'm not in this Silicon Valley and so forth. And there's things that have worked for these unicorns, for these successful organisations. They've been able to get talent, and we're in the world of talent. And it's the difference between us and another organisation is all about the people for us. So it's all about the individuals and the people, and you've got to let some of that creativity you can't control it too much, and that's the culture that we're trying to adopt with P2G. Pathway to Grow as a whole, in terms of the brand. We're not about membership fees. We're not about trying to control people's data or utilizing that or selling that on.
Well, that's a very good point that you mentioned. I'm going to play a bit of a devil's advocate here, because from somebody who's a businessman, somebody who would, I would presume, look at business models or look at what the business model is like behind any initiative and project. You don't have a membership fee. In fact, I think you're paying from yourself to get these events running. Coffee and natter, there is no membership fee, there's no fee to pay at the door. You're still providing refreshments, teas, coffees and biscuits. Chutney and chat, the attendees only pay for their meal, and that's even less than what the restaurant would normally charge. Otherwise, there's no fee, there's no membership fee for any of these Pathway to Grow initiatives. Why? Why is that? And what's the reason behind that? And why is there no business model, as people like to put it?
There is a business model.
Okay.
There is a business. The business model for us is different completely to somebody else who's running a networking organization or a membership organization. The membership organizations rely on fees, but the expectation of that individual, as soon as you start charging the fee, they've got a certain element of expectation. What are we going to do for that? And if you're a membership organization, and one of the only things that you can do is give them a logo and invite them to maybe one or two events, then you set yourself set up, I think, for failure. So you're going to have high turnover in terms of people who are not going to be renewing. You're going to have those issues, and you're going to have you're not going to be able to win the hearts of those individuals. So if a member sees another member, they're not going to feel part of that same community. All they've done is paid a fee, but you haven't got their hearts, and they're not part of that community. Where other networking organizations, they have got that community feeling, but there's a bit of a business model to it. Obviously, they want to take your data. They want to, they need to understand who the members are, because that's where the value is. They can look at them, looking at cross-selling, upselling, and look at the whole windows of opportunities. Okay, they're here. What can we do with them? And it becomes a funnel system in terms of where they start making money, maybe from other training events or coaching events and so forth. From our perspective, we wanted to leave that aside, and what we thought was, from a Pathway Group perspective, bearing in mind that I had to sell this to our governors and other people, I said, well, okay, we have a marketing budget. This is where the business aspect comes in. We have a marketing budget. I can take, say, £500 a month. I'm going to put it into a magazine, or I can put it onto pay-per-click. I can do certain aspects of it. That might give us a return on investment. And I can, we can work that return on investment out. But there's no longevity there. If I can give back, without actually selling, I can build a community where the people are going to be gaining. Those individuals, without us actually saying, this is, we've done this as a favor, because it's not about that. It's with the right intent, without expecting anything back. And if those individuals flourish, if they appreciate the community that's there, if they find friends, business partners, individuals that they become customers with or strategic partners with, and their business grows, they potentially are going to be positive about us as an organization. And if the opportunity comes for them to utilize our service, we may be possibly top in their mind in terms of that. And if not, and if there's another opportunity, maybe they'll refer us. And if we can sort of put a business model around that, it's worth us as an organization doing it. And it's worth us looking at this. Yes, governors, there's a little bit of risk. I can't necessarily give you the ROI for this at this moment in time. But if you can trust us to do this, this could grow. And this will grow on a national basis.
The association is not just confined to Pathway to Grow. It's not just a standalone project. It's actually associated with the Pathway Group in terms of its business model, right? So, I mean, a lot of people probably get confused at this point.
Informally,
yeah. A lot of people will probably be confused at this point, because they do get confused with Pathway Group, Pathway to Grow. They sound quite synonymous. But can you explain, for the benefit of the people who are watching, how this model is structured? What is Pathway Group, and how does the Pathway to Grow fit into that? And then, because you've got Chutney and Chat, and I think is Chutney and Chat Pathway to Grow or Pathway Group? You see what I mean?
If I start off with Pathway Group,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my day job. That's
Yeah.
what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I've been doing 15 years since 2008 on a full-time basis. We're a training provider.
Yeah.
But our strengths are apprenticeship training. So we're an apprenticeship training. We work with SME businesses, but we also work with larger organizations. So we're part of supply chain to organizations where we look at their management training, leadership training, with expertise in the health and social care sector. So a lot of our customers are from a health and social care sector background. But we are fairly diversified in terms of sectors that we work in. That's bread and butter. That's what we do as Pathway Group. And within Pathway Group, there's a number of sub brands that look after different levels of training. So there's niche brands that we have: care training partnership, hospitality training partnership, and so forth. So there's a number of brands that we look at specifically for certain markets. That's the training arm. In terms of Pathway2Grow, that's the umbrella brand that we use for all our networking events. So we started off with, back in the day, 2012, we've been going since 2012 in terms of the Pathway2Grow, but it was a different model then.
Okay, yeah, so it's been that long, I didn't know.
Yeah, since 2012, yeah. So when we did the first one, it was in a completely different environment. It was in hotels mainly.
Okay.
It was promoted differently.
Yeah.
We weren't on social media. We were selling. We were contacting people by email marketing. So we had email marketing programs going on.
Okay.
We had some direct mail aspect going on, and also at the same time we were sort of ringing businesses and looking to get them into mainly holiday inn hotels and so forth, and delivered networking, training, and so forth. And initially, we attracted a lot of professionals, solicitors, accountants, those sort of professionals. Where they were coming out, and they were getting some element of CPD, continuous professional development, and so forth.
I have to be
Don't
remind me. I need to update mine. I haven't had to do that.
So a lot of these professionals have got to do CPD, continuous professional development, and we were looking to, we did most of those. So 2012, 13, 14, that was the format.
Okay.
But what I was looking to do was engage more with our SMEs.
Okay.
The businesses that are local to us, the businesses that traditionally don't engage with networking. So then I looked at how do we do that? How do we actually go out there and market to that particular client? There's a lot of businesses that I felt, bearing in mind that the government support, government as a whole, public sector has shrunk, year on year. There is less money in the public sector, and so where you had business agencies that were supporting businesses, they unfortunately weren't there.
Business Link is a classic
Business
example.
Link,
I used to be a mentor for Business Link.
So Business Link, they closed that down as well, and we had a number of people that were with Business Link, that unfortunately they stopped all that. It all became a website online.
Yes.
So they lost
it was all online.
All online. So they lost the human face-to-face interaction where you could go to somebody, the guy will come in or he'll refer you and so forth.
And that was in December 2011. I think the contract. It was ERDF funded, I believe.
It was government backed as well, and so forth. That whole sector just shrank in terms of business support. So from our perspective, I was also looking at the businesses that are there, and it's in our interest to also promote and engage with these businesses. So we thought about, as a brand, what do we want to do? How can we give back as well? Without expecting, how can we give back? What can we do? How can we encourage growth in these businesses? And these individuals are usually not they have there's a lot of startups. There's a lot of individuals, and they were mainly learning from other people that may not be able to relate to their situation. And in some cases, we had individuals that weren't open to discussing possibly all their personal affairs with maybe their relatives and so forth. So how do we create that environment? So Coffee and Natter as a brand came.
That's when it started.
That's the first one. So I did the first one myself.
Okay.
Very reluctantly. I did the first one myself in this room here, and we had 8 people that attended.
Wow.
But I was reaching out to those individuals. I reached out to some friends, some people to say, this is what I'm looking to do. this is the brand that I've got. It's very informal, and come and have a look. And we've got a guest speaker. This is what we're looking to do. We had 20 people that initially showed interest, but eight came on the day. And from that perspective, what I decided to do was what I thought I needed to do was actually embrace social media in a big way.
Well, this is it. Social media has a lot to answer for. We were talking about change and how changes in the world have affected the workplace and the culture, and the change in social media, the use of social media. Who would have thought a year ago or a year and a half ago, you and I would be sitting here transmitting a live video on Facebook to the members of the community? It's amazing. And social media obviously played a pivotal role in the development of Coffee and Natter and subsequently the rest of the platform.
Yeah, we use WhatsApp as a platform. And we used.
It's a battery killer.
WhatsApp
kills my battery, I tell you.
We used WhatsApp and we used Facebook. And from a perspective of inviting people, having sort of content on the day, photographs and so forth, and effectively getting the message out. This is what we're looking to do. Again, selling the speaker to a certain extent. So from our perspective, initially, all our events were speaker driven in terms of this is the topic, this is what we're going to be talking about. It's a free event, just come along. And we started off Friday afternoon. So our first events were, for the first 3 months, were all Friday afternoon. And I thought, this is maybe it's all in the daytime. This is the time that people might come. So if you're working in the office, you can go and do some networking and then hopefully go home. If you go, say, to our local area, I looked at the demographics. If you go to the local mosque and so forth, you can always come here after that and then go on. And you'll still have time to, if you're doing the school run, still go and do that. So we pitched it at a particular time. After some feedback, we changed it to a Wednesday, particularly in Birmingham. We kept it to Wednesday. So
I think it's working really well across the country. Really well. You're not in Birmingham anymore, only in Birmingham.
Not just in Birmingham.
You're in Birmingham, Bromsgrove, Telford. Well, you're all over. You got national now.
So
and that's all happened in the last 12 months, as from what I can see. Because I remember 12 months ago, it was just Birmingham, wasn't it?
We had London as well. We had London. We had London. So we had Sean Goshal, London. He's been doing that now in a year and a half. 17 months. So from the initial sort of from the Birmingham platform, we were able to then launch from Coffee Natter. Then we were able to launch Chutney and Chat, which took off in a big way because it was in the evenings. To ladies' events also Saturday weekend. Then from a perspective of them branching out in terms of the growth. So really, what we
now P2G Live as well.
P2G Live, and really appreciate you coming on board.
Thank you very much.
Again, we just been watching from the scenes in terms of what's going on with the whole sort of live platform, what people are using, what the audience reaction is.
Well, let's talk about that in terms of social media in general. How has that affected in your eyes? How have you seen that evolve, and how much of that have you adopted within business, and what has been the outcome of that?
From a personal perspective, every business person needs to be on social media.
Is there any particular social media platform which you're more?
I have certain preferences. And I'll go into that. But from a business perspective, I think it's definitely you need to be on there. Facebook is massive. 1.7 billion, 1.8 billion, probably even more now, maybe even 2 billion. People are on there. It's just community. It's a community. And you've got your groups, you've got your pages, you've got your videos, you've got interaction. You could spend the whole day on Facebook. You don't have to go anywhere else. You could be entertained, you could be educated, you could be updated with your friends. The whole aspect of it. My personal view is there's an element of it gets a bit too much. It's quite it can be quite intensive as well in terms of understanding what's going on.
Labor intensive. It
takes a lot as well.
It can be addictive.
It can be addictive.
It can just trying to check how many likes I've got. How many likes are we getting on this video? I've got a camera creeping behind.
So there's things like that. So you start thinking about how how am I portrayed and so forth. But what you also find is that if you go to an event, they're all your Facebook friends. So you'll see people, you say, yeah, I know this person.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly why, but that face looks familiar.
Yeah.
So we recognize faces a lot easier. We as individuals. But Facebook is massive.
I think social media in general. Sorry to put you off there. I mean, from a professional perspective, the way things have evolved in business in general, I don't feel personally we can do business in a way that we did it 20 years ago. Things have evolved so much and at such a fast rate. We can't, just like the buying trends have changed, buying habits have changed. I mean, this is something that we talk about in sales, that when buying habits have changed, buying trends have changed, surely the sales styles have to change as well. People are more likely to know about you and your products and your services and your features and benefits before you even get to them. So if you're not talking about features and benefits, what are you going to sell on?
Yeah.
And this is where you were talking about personalities and coming into having discussions and already being warm or familiar with people and building relationships.
Yeah, we've got a lot more information. So for us, it's about filtering that information.
Yeah.
In terms of the going back to the change, or if I go back to the social media aspect of it, you asked me a question in terms of what my preferences are. I'm a little bit more towards Twitter, personally myself, and LinkedIn. And I use Twitter in a way where I can actually reach out to people. I'm attending events, into the conferences. It's a way for me to keep updated. So I'm less on Facebook because I think it's overcrowded, but I think Facebook is massive and you have to be on Facebook. And it's growing, and that's where the majority is, and you can get a lot of business, and it's changed people's lives in terms of if they can get Facebook right. And it's not just about promoting your business. People want to know you, and they want to know they buy into you and so forth, and what you like. And so if you can be open and you can share everything, and in terms of from a personal perspective, maybe your highs and lows and your successes and so forth, and people like to buy into your story, then it's fantastic. Twitter is, for me, it's all about events, conferences, and news. And I can also do a lot of research on Twitter in terms of individuals as well. So it's information that I can get from.
Isn't Twitter now actually classed as a news app rather than a social media?
It's changed the setting. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to claim here the fact that I'm a social media expert.
No. I think there's a social media.
Yeah, but you are right. But it is of interest. I
think people still class it as a social media platform.
It is, and I still regard it as a social media a platform, but I embrace it slightly differently. And it is about information, but it's also about communicating. And if you can get a conversation going on Twitter, it's the best thing. If you can get that engagement going, that's the best thing. Again, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these things are kicking off in a big way. I've looked at each one of those, but for me at the moment, my preferences are LinkedIn. My preferences are Twitter. But again, every person has to make their own decision. It's personal to them. What their personality is like, what their business is like, and to a certain extent, you can overdo it as well. You can say, well, I'm going to look at all of these 5 platforms, and I'm going to do a little bit on every one, or you've got something and you can just cross post. People can get disengaged. It's a big risk in terms of people getting disengaged, and it's like. The month of Ramadan, to a certain extent. I mean, maybe a silly example, but all these charity events, and you have charity fatigue because you're so you've heard it so many times, and you can be overdone. So it is about balance, and it's about understanding it, and it's about being conscious about how you're going to use it, and I think that's the key. But the last thing I want to do is proclaim that I'm a social media expert.
We know. We obviously understand our limits. I think we just having a general discussion on how we've embraced social media and the effects it has on us and our businesses. On social media, because we're always going through some kind of change. We're always learning and we're always developing it in some way. And I think it's very important that everybody does so. What methods do you rely on for your personal development?
If you talk about learning styles and personal, firstly, you've got to start off with understanding what the styles of learning are. Be a little bit conscious, particularly from a learning development professional. That's my background. So you need to understand, how we think as individuals, how we remember certain things, and from my perspective, it's really understanding that there's a learning style rule which talks about 70-20-10. There's a model there, and it's a Center for Creative Leadership (CCL) that created this model about 30 years ago, and that basically says that our learning style and what we've learned, 70% comes from experience, actually doing it on the job. that's like sitting with Nelly. You sit there, you learn on the job. 20%, if I remember correctly, comes from other people. Mentoring, coaching, that sort of thing, and then 10% comes from actually studying. That model, there's a lot of talk, a lot of chat in the learning and development profession, which says that actually is a little bit outdated. Our learning styles have changed as well, and how we learn has changed. 40% is probably now actually from experience, from doing it, from actually doing that. Whatever it is, from experience. Another 40% is now from other people. That is a bigger percentage in terms of learning from other people, from mentors, from coaches, and so forth.
Or even seminars and conferences.
Seminar. That's the 20%.
Okay.
So the structured learning, the structured courses is your 20%. Where previously it was 10%, now it's 20%. So what the biggest difference is now it's all about bite-sized learning.
Okay. So plenty of canny bites.
Yes. It's all about shorter bites. So not necessarily canny bites, but that's the format in terms of actually getting a message across. But what you've got is where we've learned, sort of a year-long courses, where you're attending sort of different events. Now the best way to do it is, one-day seminar, maybe sort of an online program, 2 hours and 3 hours, and what you do is you implement that. So it's faster learning. So you learn. So for example, if you wanted to build something, you would Google on. You go onto YouTube. You learn as you go along. So you learn, and then you basically you do it from that way. So that element has gone up. So they say the best way to learn is to teach. So that's another aspect of it.
Definitely.
So if you can have if you're in an environment where you're talking to colleagues and they're going through a process, what you're able to do is actually talk to them, but it's also at the same time you're learning. You're learning and you're developing yourself.
And then you can obviously question yourself and in the knowledge that you're dispersing at the same time and get questioned on it.
That's one of the powers. That's one of the things about networking as well. You're talking to individuals, you're relating to them, you're able to share experiences, stories, but you're also developing and learning yourself.
You're not going to believe this, but we've been talking for about 40 minutes now.
Is it 40 minutes?
We didn't even realize it's been 40 minutes. I don't know whether we have any questions from the conversation, or what we can do is ask staff to have a look at them later. But I think we can probably carry on all night just talking about these things and having a general discussion. The format was intended to be a general conversation with staff, and I think we really got that and got a bit of an insight as to how staff thinks and some of the lessons that we can derive from staff's own experiences. I wish we could carry on.
You need to stop me if I'm rambling.
No, I think I'm going to. But I think we need to have a part 2. I think maybe another 12 months from now, from the inaugural one, having an anniversary. I think that's a good idea. We can have an anniversary one back with staff for a part 2. But I hope everybody at home or whoever's watching has enjoyed this. Any feedback is appreciated and welcomed. In the future, we will be holding another one. I've just spoken to a potential guest today. I had a meeting with them today, and more news of that will follow on social media. We will create the relevant posts and the digital marketing campaigns and let you guys know. But definitely connect with us. Keep following us. Any questions, give us a shout, and hopefully we will catch you next time.